All right, hello. Today we're going to be talking about the order of operations. It's going to be immensely useful when we start creating and solving equations, as well as just simplifying expressions, which is our focus for early on. Here on the left, you see the order of operations itself: parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction, most commonly referred to in the acronym PEMDAS. There are a couple of distinctions I want to make about PEMDAS. The first being that multiplication and division are not in a different order, is that they're actually on the same order. So we need to keep that in mind. The second being that how addition and subtraction are on the same level as each other as well. These are common mistakes that I see with order of operations, so I want to make a point to clarify that. Definitely should have this written down somewhere in your notes. All right. So the first example I want to show, and these are already worked out, so I can just talk through them and not spend so much time writing on the tablet. The first example I want to show is, what if I have 2 times 3 divided by 6? Now, really, I want to emphasize here is that we have notation changes to what you might be used to. When you're first learning multiplication division, a common thing would be for someone to write 2 times 3 with an x as the operation itself. We want to avoid using this now because x is one of our very common variables we use, and we don't want to end up with a situation like 2 times x like this, because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's not clear if you're implying 2 times x or just 2 times x, or if it's a notation I already wrote multiplication twice. So we want to avoid that whenever possible. The other thing there is the notation for division. Divisions are written with this notation, not very often in this class or moving forward into more advanced classes, but it's a notation that still exists. Most often you'll see, as I've written below, the notation I would use for division, which makes it much easier to see the order that you would simplify in. But regardless, we perform these operations left to right, which you see written below. 2 times 3 comes first, which gives you 6, and then I do 6 divided by 6, which gives me 1. If I were to switch around the numbers and the operations itself, though, it becomes a little bit different. Notice the expression 6 divided by 3 times 2. Now, if I consider multiplication above division incorrectly so, then I would do 3 times 2 first, and you see on the left here, that's what we get. 3 times 2 is 6, and then I have 6 divided by 6, which is 1. Not what we want. What instead we need to realize is that we would use these operations in the same level, left to right. I would do 6 divided by 3 first, which is 2, and then I'd have 2 times 2, which is 4. So this is the correct answer for this one, using the order of operations the correct way. The reason I prefer the fraction notation, and will be using that, is because it more clearly shows what order you should use without any ambiguity at all. So see on the right, I have 6 divided by 3 times 2. It's very clear it's 6 divided by 3 first. That's in its own area. There's the implication that you are going to do 6 divided by 3 first, which just will give you 2 times 2 is 4. Otherwise, you end up with the same situation we had before, where we do 3 times 2. Like if I wrote 3 times 2 in the denominator, then it's very clear that I would have to simplify that first. And then I'd have 6 divided by 6, which should give me 1. Moving on to adding and subtracting, though. If I just wrote this random expression, 7 plus 5 minus 3 minus 2 plus 1, if we operate under the impression that addition is first, I would end up with 12 minus 3 minus 3, because we'd add 7 plus 5 first, and we'd add 2 plus 1 first. This would ultimately give us 6, which is not what we want. Instead, let me make sure I did right over here. Yeah. Instead, I would just go left, right. 7 plus 5 is 12. 12 minus 3 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. So you always want to make sure we're using the order of operations correctly, because otherwise we get wildly different answers. Moving on to parentheses and exponents. Important that we perform these in order as well. Parentheses first. So in this expression, I would add 2 plus 1 to get 3, and then I would apply the exponent. It would be incorrect to apply the exponent first, say to the 1, because then that would be a totally different expression. It would be 2 plus 1 minus 1. We want to make sure we simplify these parentheses before we start doing anything with exponents. Now, to finish out here, I'm going to leave you guys with a couple of examples to solve, or a couple of problems to solve on your own, which we will discuss later. The first will be 3 minus 5 to the second power plus 7 minus 3 plus 2. And problem number 2. 4 minus 3 plus 1 over negative 3 to the second power. So go ahead and pause the video and work on this for a bit. And once you are ready to check your answers, resume the video and you can see what we get. So number 1, we'll go with 3 minus 5 first in the parentheses, which will leave us with negative 2. The rest of the expression I could just copy down as is. Then I could deal with the exponent. Negative 2 to the second power will give us positive 4. Now we can see this is all adding and subtracting, so let's go left to right. 4 plus 7 is 11. 11 minus 3 is 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. And problem number 2. The point I want to make here is that in this fractional notation, there's another point of emphasis here. The numerator and the denominator each have implied parentheses, as if I had written them on here like so. The denominator already has parentheses, so I don't need to write any there, but we definitely want to simplify the numerator before we do any division with the denominator. So we're going to go ahead and do that. 4 minus 3 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. And in the denominator, negative 3 to the second power gives us positive 9. Now this is as simplified as this is going to get, 2 over 9, so we will leave that as our final answer. Okay, and I'll address all questions from the chat or from you unmuting yourselves and telling me as needed. But thank you all.